Got it. Oh, look at that. I got 2 minutes to go. Remember, when I turn the mics on, everybody only say good things about the town administrator. We don't want the FCC to be shutting us off.
Be careful with the language. No, I was gonna ask a question.
Almost.
Verizon tells me I've got a minute to walk over here.
What does Verizon say?
It's 5:58 according to,
Yeah, that's about right.
5:59.
Right. So that is
Read that.
18 is already.
oh, we have a magnifying glass, you want me to get it for you?
We've got 40 more seconds.
It's ready, it's on. Don't say anything bad.
Start early. People are expecting us.
5:59:30. 30.
Yeah, that's right.
Look at that. Wow, that's pretty close.
Nice.
To the cellular network. Yeah.
That's set from the atomic clock in Fort Collins, Colorado.
I've been there.
Have you?
I have.
I don't want to go there.
I'll probably be back there in a few weeks.
5 seconds.
4 hours tonight.
All right, well, welcome everyone to night 2 of budget presentations for the Board of Selectmen and the Budget Committee. Before we get going and hand it over to our first presenters who are here tonight, just a quick reminder that this is an opportunity for us to ask questions of the presenters on the nature of their presentation or the content, but let's try to avoid drifting into deliberations, of which we will all have ample amount of time to do respectfully in our own respective forums and together. And also so that we can try to stay on track, get everybody in, not have everybody waiting around to look for all of them. We've got quite a slate of presenters here this evening. And we have a bunch of new faces in here tonight, and so David, should we go around the circle one more time?
Sure, why not?
Starting with yourself.
Oh, David Kinney, Town Administrator.
Kayla Lacombe, Finance Director.
Steve Hand, Select Board. Kurt Late, Select Board.
Lady Dunn, Chair.
Mike Ray, Select Board.
Robin Tarantino, Select Board. Lori Knight, Budget Committee. Patria Allen, Budget Committee. Emily Flaherty, Budget Committee. John Holmes, Budget Committee.
Sam Stopak, Budget Committee, and Comprehensive Plan Committee.
And John Williams, just the Budget Committee.
You're on Budget Committee.
Susan Silverio, Comprehensive Plan Review Committee.
Eric Galician, Lakes and Ponds Committee.
Thank you, and with that, I'll hand the microphone over to David, and he can run the show from here.
Wonderful, thank you. For those of you who are back for your second night this week, or maybe a third night this week, depending on who you are, welcome back, and for new faces, welcome. Fortunately for everybody, I don't get to talk as much tonight as I do at Monday night select board meetings or Tuesday night's budget review committee meetings. We're still all working off the February 12th draft in the lower left-hand corner. Tonight we have a number of presenters from various boards and committees and other outside groups, or outside groups, not other outside groups. And we begin tonight with the Lakes and Ponds Committee. Gary is here. He's the chair, longstanding chair of the committee. And he's here to explain the request. We're on page 18, even though the schedule says page 19. Everybody with us?
Yes.
Gary, you're up.
Thank you all. It's good to be here. I think in all the years that I've done this, I haven't been at the top of the agenda. So this is really great. I'll try to make it quick. The budget that we're requesting this year for the committee is the same level that was approved at the town meeting last year. And it has basically the same elements that we've had over the past several years. The request is for $900, and the first element of it is approximately $600, and that's to do bacterial testing for Norton Pond, and especially the town-owned Breezemere Park beach area. And the intent here is that if we see exceedances in the routine monitoring that the McClintock Watershed Association does, that we want to be able to follow up to see if we can find out what the cause is of those exceedances. Over the past several years, the situation has improved at Breezemere Park. Last year, I think we only had one exceedance on August 9. And that was not a good exceedance to be able to do the follow-up on because of the conditions that follow. We really like to try to do that monitoring when we've got rainy weather because it's more likely that we'll be able to identify what the source may be. And the samples we take are approximately $25 a piece. They haven't come out with their exact schedule for this coming year, so that would allow for about 24 samples to do that kind of follow-up activity. The second element of our budget is the permit that is required from the state for us to work in the wetland at Breezemere Park, where there's been a stand of Phragmites that has grown there. And this is behind where you can park the boat trailers, the parking lot that you see on the right when you turn down Norton Pond Road. And we're really making tremendous progress in terms of getting that area restored. When we first started several years back, we had 12-foot, 13-foot, 14-foot Phragmites in a very, very dense stand. And when we saw that, we were really concerned because when Phragmites goes to seed in late summer or early fall, it can blow the seeds toward Norton Pond, and it could create a really significant infestation there that would be bad for property values and bad for the ecosystem as well. So that's essentially our budget. We also have a piece here that says that if we don't end up using the money for the purpose of doing the testing, that there would be money available to do additional projects. And that's come into use when the select board has sent out letters to Lakeshore owners, for example. So if something comes up in a year that requires a response, some kind of monitoring, the money's there. But most years we return a good part of that back to the town if it doesn't have to be used for the sampling.
Anyone have questions for, oh, sorry, I didn't
No,
want,
no.
Joe meeting, but
No.
you told me to run it, so. Anybody have questions for Gary?
Thank you all.
No, thank
Joe?
you. Thank you so much, Gary.
It's the most fun committee. It's fun chopping Phragmites and taking samples of water.
Yeah, Susan is actually the person who does the sampling at Drake's Corner and at the beach. She collects the samples as a volunteer for the McClintock Watershed Association.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks so much, Gary.
Next up on your list is Susan Silverio from the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee. Their budget request is on page 18, and the little explanation that Susan provided to the group is on the top of page 19.
What did I say? It's been about 3 years, almost 3 years since the select board appointed the small committee to review.
Oh, sorry.
It's been almost 3 years since the select board appointed the small committee to review the comprehensive plan and to update it. It should be done every 10 years. After 12 years, it's obsolete. It's the basis of all of our ordinances, it's what supports them legally. So we're now 18 years out of date. And so we've been working for the last 3 years as a small group of concerned citizens. We have learned so much. We've done a great job. We have a new member has just joined, 2 new members have joined over this 3-year period, but we still have like 6 people. So our task has been to get all the data, the updated data from the state planning office, and plug all that into all of our chapters. We've also interviewed all of our committees, and we've had workshops with the select board. We're getting close to finalizing some drafts for some updated chapters. There's still, well, I should say, the select board also appointed a committee to Heart and Soul team to do the public engagement section of this, because we didn't want a small committee making these decisions alone. We wanted to have as much input from all of our citizens as possible. And we're in we've completed the first year of that, and last Sunday, we, as a townspeople came together, and 42 people created value statements from all of the thousands of pieces of data that have been collected over the past year. That's another committee altogether. So those results are now in. We've created the value statements. Now we'll be sending those out to the town, all townspeople to vet and to finalize. Then those value statements can go into the comprehensive plan. They're a framework. Then we really still need to look at all the action items, the goals and implementation processes. At this point, in order to create a document that we can present to the state for approval and bring back for the voters' approval, we really need to have some technical assistance in reviewing and writing. There's also maps that are involved. That we are a group of people that have somewhat limited skills. Technically, we've done our best, and I think we've done a good job. But what's changed in the last 3 years is that Lincolnville is now a member of our local planning commission, which is the Mid-Coast Council of Governments. So those consulting services are now available to us for much less expensive than when we first started this process 3 years ago. They gave us a quote of $80,000 for consultants to do this work. We've done about half the work ourselves, so we've cut that in half. And now we're looking at, we're saying 30,000. I think it could be less than that. I think there are people in our own community who could help us with this technical assistance, or people who live very nearby who are part of the Mid-Coast Council of Governments. They have all the tools, all the ability to do this. So the goal would be that if this was approved in June by the voters, that then we have that whole year. Our Heart and Soul process will be finalized by the end of this year, and our draft chapters would be done. And then with that technical assistance, it could be finalized, put into a format that can be approved by the state, and then presented to the town for a vote. And that we're looking at that target date of being June of next year, 2025. So that's the plan. We do need that technical assistance and consultants.
John, go ahead.
Yes, I was just wondering, this whole Dollar General event, did that bring any more focus to your task? I mean, it kind of wakes people up, I think.
I think everyone became aware that there was a comprehensive plan, and that we did not have a land use committee. Last year at this time, we had one person who was interested in serving on the land use committee because there was none, and she was one of our team. And then by the time the Dollar General thing came about, and there was complete unanimous support, then there were 8 applicants, and she was not chosen. There are many others who are now willing to step up and work in that, realizing that the land use is one of the major parts of the comp plan.
Whoops, go ahead.
I do have a question. Yeah, Susan, thanks very much. But I remember last time you were at the select board a month or so ago, correct me if my memory is wrong.
Workshop.
Yeah, it was a workshop, yeah. You mentioned pretty much the same thing, it might cost 30 grand more or less. And I remember I believe we asked you to see if you could go out and get some estimates.
No, you did not.
No?
So that we would not do that until we had some authorization. David suggested that we put in that amount, even though the 80 from Eddie Filson from Midcoast, they really, it depends on what you ask for. And we're not in a position where we can ask for that yet. So she gave us that figure. Her figure was, if we did the whole thing for you, it'd be 30,000. I'm sure it'd be much less. So it might just be a placeholder, you know, if the select board decides that I'm not sure what the final decision, it's not entirely up to us to hire somebody to do this. So it depends a lot on what the select board decides is most valuable and most important.
Thanks, Susan. So 2 questions, I think. So the $10,000 that the Heart and Soul has, is there any, do we know if that would be available to be used for this purpose?
I would have to defer to David on that because we had a very strict contract. We have been incredibly frugal, so that dinner, this lunch that was provided on Sunday was mostly donations.
Yeah.
From local organizations. We haven't spent very much of the money. I think we're going to have money left over. Whether that would be available for this purpose, I don't know, because you'd have to look at that contract.
And then another big question I have is, in terms of the long-term importance of the new comprehensive plan, is that could that potentially be used by the state, in terms of their decision-making, in terms of giving us money for, other projects?
Yes, that's one of the reasons to have an updated plan. It does make our town eligible for funding.
Right.
That would be, may not apply for that funding ourselves, but there could be regional grants that the Midcoast Council of Governments could apply for, and our membership in that council and our updated plan would help us be eligible for those funds.
So it could have far-reaching and long-term benefits in terms of that. So for whatever we invest to make it really professional and well-polished, regardless of what is paid for that, assuming, we, procure funds, we could get our return could be, exponentially more than that over time.
All the funds that will be available for resilience planning, for infrastructure, for the waterfront, among many other things.
Thank you.
Other questions for Susan? I think you're good, Susan. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
So as much as I don't like to jump around,
Can you bring that microphone over close to the fella? You know how to use it, right?
I do.
Okay, good.
we're gonna go back to page 17 for Public Works Other. We skipped over one item last night, and that was the Veterans Park. And with us tonight is Rosie Gary, who has been the long-term chair of that committee and a mover and shaker in making that park happen. So with that great introduction, the floor is yours to explain why you think you need more money.
Well, I'm very, very happy to report that I don't need any money. that,
Okay, next item.
Next.
so,
All in favor?
so, a little explanation, in December, I came to the select board and said, we need to do some upgrades and some work to the Veterans Park. And I went out and got a couple of estimates from local contractors to do the work, and I asked the town, how can we pay for this, because I only had a few dollars in the account, and it wasn't enough to do that. And they said, well, you'll have to come to the budget meeting. And then I said, well, the problem is, we're gonna be putting in a sidewalk, and you don't wanna be putting big trucks and excavators and stuff running over a brand new sidewalk, which was gonna totally destroy it. And I said, geez, we'd like to help you, but our hands are tied right now. And I asked if there was a possibility that I could get a loan. They said, well, maybe you better think about, see if you could raise the money. So I'm happy to say that we with what money I had in the account, I needed about $3,500. And so far, a little over 5,000 has come in. So we don't really, probably won't need any money hopefully for a couple of years if nothing happens. And we don't, unless I decide I want to build something else. But thank you very much, folks. But we're all and the beauty of this is these donations came in from Lincolnville residents, but also as far away as Arizona and Florida, South Carolina, New York. They came in from all over the country. So was really pleased. But yes, a lot of Lincolnville residents, taxpayers, ponied up. And so my lowest donation was $10 and my highest was $1,000. So I'd say we're in good shape. So thank you very much. Next.
Amazing work, Rosie.
Thank you.
So zero?
Well, that's the other question. So I know in previous years, provider agencies, just to keep their names and to keep in the thing, but where this is a town facility, do I need to ask for $1?
No.
Okay.
You'll get a request on an annual basis.
Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure because I don't provide agencies.
I already crossed you out, so no. Not really question, me too.
Good question, though.
All right, thank you. We were almost on schedule. Don't go too far. Hi, Diane. So we're going back to page 18, and I'm going to do the remainder of the boards and committees, and then we'll move on to the next groups, and if I do this in 4 minutes, we'll be on schedule. So if we're on page 18, boards and committees, select board, you can see the breakdown. Each select board member receives $1,300 annually. We also have to pay our share of FICA, Medicare, and the new paid family medical leave. And we provide, we have traditionally provided like $500 for training opportunities that select board members might wish to go to become more educated and do better in their jobs. I don't know how they could do better, but training helps. Conservation Commission has requested no money. They have requested, as you can see on the bottom of page 19, that any monies that remain in their account be carried forward to the following year. They have a little over $4,000 in their account now. The vast majority, if not all of that, was actually fundraised long ago, and it didn't seem really appropriate to take money that was fundraised for conservation, put it in the general fund and spend it for something else. So that's traditionally been carried forward. Planning board, you can see the breakdown. Professional development is training opportunities for those folks if they wish to attend. We provide a recording secretary at planning board meetings because those are quasi-judicial and subject to appeal. We pay that individual, and when we pay somebody, we also pay our share of FICA and Medicare and the new paid family and medical leave. And then we have a $250 request in there for supplies should the planning board need manuals or printing or whatever. And Gary talked about lakes and ponds, and Susan talked about comprehensive plan, so that's now concluded, unless somebody has questions on boards and committees. We have many more boards and committees than just those that are listed here, but the others do with nothing or little. Yes.
I brought this up last year, regarding the planning board, the training, professional development.
Yep.
About $500 is a lot right now. I'd like to see a higher number in case better training options come. Simply because it's, in my opinion, incredibly important board, incredibly important that they be well trained, know what they're doing. I've been through the MMA trainings that you're talking about, and it's pretty scant, in my opinion. You learn on the job. And if there are other trainings, I'd like to see us the town take advantage of that. So I can see a higher number in there. So.
When it gets to board deliberations here in another week, flag that one and hammer on your counterparts, and maybe that number will change.
Yeah.
I would like to go back to the select board compensation. Everybody knows we're not in this for the money. If you don't believe it, just look at what we get. It's all for the love of this town. I know firsthand that the chair puts in way more hours than the rest of this board. And I personally feel that the chair should get a little bit more. I have no idea how much more, but I just want to appeal to the board here and everybody else here to think about that. Our chair puts in a lot of time here at the town office, in addition to running a business and a personal life and everything. I don't see how it can be worth it for what the chair gets. But it's all about the love for this town. I get it. And I think every one of you do too, because you're all here for nothing. But I just want to get that out there. I personally want to talk to everybody here on the board. I feel that the chair needs more. And that's just my personal opinion, and I needed to get that out there. At the end of my term, that will be 9 years. And ever since I've been here, our chair has doubled my time here in the town office, other projects, representing the town at other committees and things away from this town, things that we have to be involved with. So I just want everybody to think about that. Thank you.
Any other questions about boards and committees? Seeing none, we'll move back to page 20, which is our municipal support. This is just that the other organizations and kind of a little bit of a catch-all of things we pick up along the way. The first in municipal support is Historical Society request. Diane O'Brien is currently of the Historical Society? President of the Historical Society. And Mr. Gary, I believe, is also on the board of directors for the Historical Society. And with that, Diane, I'll turn it over to you to explain your $2,500 request.
Okay, first of all, we have a 9-person board. We're really, I think at this point, pretty active as a board. We meet monthly. Every Friday morning, there's a crew of anywhere from 5 to 7 volunteers who come in and work. Everybody comes in with their own project, some part of our vast collection of stuff that they work on. And I just want to make the point that the Historical Society sort of has two prongs. There's why we exist, what we do, which is collect the town's and preserve the town's archive and try to interpret it in some way. That's kind of our main job. That archive consists of paper. It's photographs on paper, it's documents, it's maps, it's journals, letters, all kinds of sort of paper ephemera. We store it in cardboard boxes in a 170-year-old wooden building that is vacant most of the time. So that's kind of most historical societies in these small towns do. It's vulnerable. And we've taken it on ourselves at this point to try to digitize all of it. That's our main job, is to digitize that collection and get it up on the cloud. So it's accessible to everybody, no matter what might ever happen. But in the process, we also have a building that we have to maintain. And as you're well aware, we took over the building when we did, and we've done, I think, a tremendous amount of work on it, restoring and rebuilding and adding additional things to it. And one of the things we're doing now is we're holding dinners. We're holding, we call it the Beach Bistro, and we do it every other month, and some group of community members, family who like to cook, get a team together and come in and cook a meal, and we sell tickets, and it's a fancy dinner, and we're actually making some money, which is kind of nice, so we actually have a fundraiser. But we need water, we need good water in order to do this, and if you know anything about water at Lincolnville Beach, particularly in that building, it stinks. It smells like sulfur when you turn on the water. So we've got an estimate to put in a submersible pump and a filtration system, somewhat shy of $8,000 it will cost us. We have a plumber who's going to be doing the work. And we, as you can see, we've had a grant from West Bay Rotary for $1,500 towards that. And we're asking the town to help us with this water situation. To the tune of $2,500, which would go a long way to helping us. And probably next year, you're going to see me sitting here asking about paving the driveway, which is currently a mud hole, but that's another story. This year, we're looking up the water.
We have 371 members.
Yep, I forgot about that. Thanks, Rose. Yes, we do.
And like I said, we're looking to pave next year. We're hoping to pave because we have a beautiful brand new floor, and we track that mud and salt in there, and that floor is not going to last.
I don't know how many of you have been in the building.
Yes. How many people here have been to the museum?
To see it since it's been.
Have you seen it since it's been renovated?
Come.
Tomorrow night, we have a program there, a good opportunity to go to that. We'll have a program with Carrie Hardy and Bella Barnes will be performing. It lasts 1 hour, and it's by, you don't have to put anything in to get a cookie, or you can make a little donation. But I would highly encourage you to come to any of the museum's events. They are very well run and very well organized, as is the museum upstairs. You've done a tremendous job, thank you.
Doors open at 6:30 tomorrow, and the program starts at 7. And and one other thing, which just as a, by the way, we've been invited by the Farnsworth to join in one of their big programs this summer on Wabanaki basket making. And we have quite a history and quite a collection of Penobscot baskets, and they've asked us to be part of that, so that we're pretty excited about that. So,
And where did those baskets come from?
with those baskets,
Where did they come from?
they came from Bob Anderson, from the Indian tent,
Right.
his family.
So they're Lincolnville baskets.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So anyway, that's just another thing that's happening that we're excited about. So, that's it.
Questions for the representatives from the Historical
Yeah, I got a
Society?
question. Just on the submersible pump, is that gonna help clean up the water, or you just need a new pump? 'Cause you're out of water?
No, and I'm somebody here, I'm sure many of you understand this more than I do. We have a pump, we have a jet pump, but it's only goes like 10 feet down or 20 feet down, and then once it draws water, then suddenly it's sucking air, and it was, as it was explained to me, we need the submersible. And it's a 150-foot deep well. And I think the water is healthy, it's not unhealthy, it's just nasty.
Not
If that makes
just-
sense.
It doesn't, but.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and a filtration, oh, yeah.
It's a filtration system. is what-
So you're requesting 2,500 and you have a grant of 1,500, that's 4,000. The estimate's 8,000. Where's the rest coming from?
Well, we did a capital campaign where we raised, 354,
350.
around that. We have spent a good most of it, but we still have some left, and we also would like to have some in reserve, because someday something else is gonna break down there, and we need that. So this will just help us continue to fix the things that need fixing.
Others? Diane, I think you're free to go.
Thank you, Diane.
Rosie, I think you get to stay.
This is fun.
Is it?
What's his
It's
turn?
either this or Judge Judy.
Okay, well, we were ahead of schedule by a minute and a half, and now we're a minute ahead. Now, Mr. Gary's here to talk about cemeteries, because he's the chair of the cemetery trustees as well. We're continuing on page 20.
So, for those of you who may not be aware, Town of Lincolnville is not responsible for all the cemeteries, but the abandoned cemeteries. And so we take care of abandoned cemetery would be on High Street. We have 3 cemeteries, abandoned cemeteries on High Street alone, Fletcher, Cross, and Thomas. And so we requested a bunch of money last year, some of you remember at town meeting, and we received that. Fletcher Cemetery has now been restored. I would say it's 85% restored in Fletcher. Cross Cemetery is 95% restored. Thomas is in a complete derelict mess. We need to get in there. We would have done a lot more. We have other cemeteries, Alma Cemetery, which is down by Duck Trap, another cemetery down there, Sylvester. We have the Field Cemetery off the Cobbtown Road. We have a new cemetery that I just learned about, abandoned on the Dickey Road, which is up off back Belmont Road, or the old, or what you call the Green Acre Road. It's way down in the woods, and we need to take care of that. We also need things coming up. We have right in the back here, some of you may not know it, we have a Revolutionary War Lincolnville resident who is buried down here on the pond, and there's several graves in there. Then that needs to be researched, and it's unkept. It's full of brush, leaves, and stuff. We go there to put the flags every year, but people are not aware of all these cemeteries. Plus, we have a lot of maintenance on these cemeteries, but we're also trying to do our diligence and bring them back to where they're least respectable, and have some. So we have money in the account, but we need about 8,000 this next year. Actually, we need 8,000 to make it to help put it up to where we need to be. Something else on my mind I was gonna tell you, but I can't think what it was right now. It'll come back to me, I'm sure. But, oh, I know. And so the reason we didn't get more done last year, if you remember, we had a wonderful summer and we had a wonderful fall. It rained, as you know, and it's really hard for the individuals that were doing this work to get in there and get stuff done. So anyway, 8,000.
Questions for Rosie? I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so last year, when we talked about this a lot on the budget committee, it was presented to us that the 16,000 was kind of a multi-year plan.
that you didn't expect that you'd be spending all 16,000 in 1 year, which was part of why the budget committee budgeted less for you last year. And then you made a very heartfelt presentation at town meeting, not mentioning that it was more of a multi-year thing. You got all of the money that you wanted, and that excess, are you going to be able to spend the other 6,000 this year between now and June?
I have that and more, all intentions, if, Robin, if we have a year that we can actually get out there and work. That's the problem, is not, you know, he would have done a lot more, but the weather just would not cooperate. And when you're using this stuff to put these stones back together that have been broken for, some of these stones have been broken for 75 or 100 years. And you need right weather for that. So yes, to answer your question, I have every intentions of doing that and more.
Okay, and the 8,000 is what you expect you would want for next year to do?
That's all.
Plan
That's
for
the
next year.
final thing. That will mostly, that 8,000 will probably be used mostly for general maintenance. That's mowing, raking, spring cleanup, in the summer months. These
Yeah,
cemeteries this last year, as you know from your own lawn, you could mow every 3 days. So we really had to stay on top of it. So we used up a lot with maintenance, and so I'm anticipating that again.
Okay, because my only primary concern was that it felt like last year we funded more dollars than you had intention of using in the year, and if it didn't get used, it ends up in our general fund, which seemed kind of wasteful to me to be purposefully budgeting more than we could reasonably expect to do in a year. But it sounds like you're saying that we can reasonably expect to finish off this year and also
Yes,
the next year.
that's the full intentions. But I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, David, I don't think that goes into a general fund. I think it stays in the cemetery. Does it not, David? The money stays
It
in
would
the cemetery.
only stay in the cemeteries if we voted to carry it forward in the cemeteries,
Okay, but it's a potential.
which I think we do.
Yeah, I think we have been.
We always do.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
don't say always.
I would just, if anybody's not been out to see all these cemeteries, I took the opportunity this year to go out with Rosie and see I think we missed one, but to see
We did miss one. We missed the Elmer Cemetery.
It's crazy, and the amount of work they've done is amazing, and there's still a lot of work to be done. And it's something we should, in my opinion, just for the cemeteries and stuff like that, we should do.
I am available for any one of you to go on a tour anytime, 1, 2, 3, 4 of you, whatever. I could take the whole group if you'd like to go. We can work that out. If you'd like to go on a complete tour, I think you'd be absolutely amazed at what we have done, and what we've got to do is overwhelming.
And I would like to add that the Fletcher and Cross look really nice on High Street.
Thank you.
You've done a great job.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you.
I think it also bears mentioning too, that forever, the majority of this work has been done through volunteer efforts, and what we've been seeing in the last few budget cycles is a very necessary transition from the really good 100% volunteer labor into having to compensate in order to just stay on top of the bulk of the, as Rosie, you put it, maintenance. Forget about the other stuff.
And just to add to, there's always, just keep in mind, there's always that little cloud that's hanging up there saying, oh, we've got 1, 2, maybe 3 more cemeteries that are on the verge of, that they have no money in their accounts. So we may wind up, and if we do, we're gonna have to come up with a lot more money. Just, anyway, just putting it on.
Rosie, you mentioned, the 8,000 would probably just be used up in general maintenance, ongoing maintenance.
Probably most of that.
So that would be true every year, if it's just general maintenance.
That's what,
And, who gets hired to do that maintenance?
lately, and they've been doing a good job, is a company called Drinkwaters, and they're from Northport, and there are a couple places that they've refused to do, not for us, because of poison ivy, they just won't go in. So a couple of the other cemeteries, the private cemeteries, they were taking care of those also, and they've refused to work there because of poison ivy. So something needs to be done with that, with them, but that's not our concern at this point in time. So if that answers your question.
Any other questions regarding cemeteries for Rosie?
Seems none. Well, he's still here. He also wears the cap of, I was looking to see what your hat actually said, but he's the Memorial Day coordinator, chair, whatever, and here to explain to you the request for Memorial Day.
Memorial Day, we usually, if weather permits, we do a parade. If it's raining and we can't, we usually do a program. I reserve the school to do a program in the school, which we have a speaker and stuff. The other thing is falls under the Memorial Day is we also are required by statute that to make sure that every veteran has a flag on their grave. And so we do that, and the town buys the flags, and the request this year, I believe, is for 1,500.
It is.
And it's going to remain the same this year because I'm pretty sure that I'm all set for 25. But after that, I just need to let you all know that our flag, the place where we buy the flags, that individual is no longer in business. And so the place where the town of Camden and Rockport and stuff are buying their flags would be the same place probably that we would buy them, doubled in price. Doubled, didn't go up 10%, it doubled in price. But I got flags upstairs in reserve, and I think we're all set. So I should be all set for the 2025. I call this 25. So we're looking at, so 1,300 should be fine for that.
So I see one of the line items under Memorial Day, bands, $400.
Yes.
What's that?
That's for the Lincolnville Band, and also they didn't send us a bill this last year for some reason, but sometimes we give the high school a donation of that. So, but
Okay, thanks.
yeah.
So if you don't all see where select person late found that, on page 22 is a breakdown of the Memorial Day estimated costs.
I think from my memory, the meals are for the bands because.
The meals are they're for the bands
Because they do
and
multiple.
the color guard,
Correct.
yes. And so they feed the Rockport Masonic Lodge. They feed all the marchers, the bands, the Lincolnville Band, the high school, and believe me, when those high school kids come through the door, they are very hungry. And so that's yes. Each town of Camden, Rockport, they all contribute to that, and that's our share of the food and stuff. So.
Other questions regarding the Memorial Day request? I think then you are excused.
Thank you very much.
Look at that, you
Thank
kept,
you, Rosie.
Thank you.
you kept us on schedule too.
Yeah.
Up next will be the folks from the Lincolnville Community Library, and we're getting another chair, and welcome.
Hello. Is this for me?
All these chairs are for you, or any of these chairs are for you.
Yes, yes. So, same time, same place, huh?
Same place. So they have your overall request, and that page, you can read it, your eyes
Yes.
we cut and pasted what you gave us. and
Okay, good, yeah.
So
We're all on the same page.
literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
So we're on page 20 has the overall request from the Lincolnville Community Library. 21 has a breakdown of the detail. And Kathleen, maybe I'll let you introduce who's here, and Kathleen Oliver from the Lincolnville Community Library.
Yes, once again, speaking up for the library. Again, this year, we have Jim Sweet, who is our treasurer par excellence and helps us plan for the future for the library. And our director, Chris Landy, whom I believe you met last year, but she was like brand new last year. This year, she has more than proven her worth, I can tell you that. So we're delighted to have her. I'm just gonna go over some bullet points I made about what's going on with the library and what our funding request is, which this year, as you saw on the paperwork, we're asking for $3,000 again. And overall, I would say the library is just humming along under our new director, Chris. We're finally recovering from COVID. It's taken a long time to get the library back up and running in the way that we were before and able to offer the programs that we had before, plus, which we really needed to do. We have lots of new card holders in town. Every week we have people coming into the library who have just moved here or just decided they want a library card. So our patron list is really growing. That's very exciting. And in big news that you may or may not know, Cindy Dunham has retired from the library board. She was on the board for 12 years, and she led us through some very challenging and exciting times. And I just want to mention how grateful we've been to Cindy for all the work that she put in. We have been adding board members, and we're very happy that we have another new board member who just came on this last month, Karen Prather in town, and that's exciting for us. New ideas, new energy, right? As for everyone else in the world, costs are escalating for us. And, you know, the cost of books and materials for the library has really gone up quite astronomically. Our insurance has gone up, maintenance has gone up, things like we had to have some repairs done on our solar panels. Wow, those are expensive repairs. And remember, we provide all the electricity to the LIA/Historical Society from the solar panels that we have because it's our excess, which we're really happy to be able to do. No, they don't pay for it. That's a gratis service from us. And our tech services keep going up in price, the things that we have to run the library, like our Library World, which is our circulation system and everything else, record system, and subscriptions to Zoom, which the state library was paying for us. We've had to pick that kind of thing up. And we're happy to still be able to offer Zoom services at the library, but these things keep going up. We've continued to add new programs, as I said. This year, AARP is offering tax preparation sessions for residents. All you have to do is call the library and make an appointment, come in and pick up some paperwork, and they have trained people who will help you through your taxes at no cost. And we have 4 sessions coming up before tax time. We also offer library cards for the Bangor Public Library now.
which is a huge plus in terms of they have a lot of additional online services beyond what we have at the library. And if you get a free Bangor Public Library card, you can access all their databases, their audiobooks. I believe they have movies as well, so it's pretty extensive and big. This month we have Red Cross Emergency Readiness Session coming up, where Red Cross will tell you how to prepare your home for any kind of emergency, fire, etc. And they will come and install free smoke detectors in your home. So that's new this year. We used to have music together before COVID hit, which was the little kids, the little toddlers, and it was so successful, it was huge. It's back. Chris was able to reconnect with the people who do that, and we've got that back up and going. Some money coming from the library budget and some from Bangor Savings Bank.
That's the next year.
Next year.
This year we funded it.
Yeah, we funded it this year. And our meeting space is being requested more and more often. Coastal Mountains Land Trust has asked to use us, as you know. Heart and Soul has been meeting there on a regular basis. We have book groups there. But the library as a meeting space is available to the community, and we don't charge for the use of that space. Sometimes we ask you, if you'd like to make a donation, we're happy about that. No charge. The first time this year, we're having a summer reading program for children, and we have never been able to offer that before, but with Chris and some of the new volunteers we have who are just really enthusiastic about this, that's something we're adding. We're also joining with, I don't know if you're aware of it, the program called Maine Reads, where the whole state of Maine, anyone who wants to, gets involved by all reading the same book and discussing it. And we're joining up with that as well. This year we had the Maine Humanities Council offer us a program, and they came, and the Maine State Archivist, whose name's eluding me. Oh, okay, both of us.
Me too, Kate.
Kate, she came, and she's the archivist for the state of Maine, and she spoke to us about Malaga Island. It was a fascinating discussion with visuals, and that was available in the library or on Zoom, and we had over 40 people sign up for the Zoom part of that. So we have a lot of interest, people all over the state who are interested in what we're doing. So the big question is, how are our funds holding up, right? That's the real issue here. Our endowment fund is continuing to grow. As I've stated in the past, our endowment is designed to plan for the future for the library. We hope to grow it to the point where we'll actually be able to take 4% out of it to help pay for our expenses. We're nowhere near that now, but people keep sending us money for it, and that's very exciting. So little by little, we're growing. We get an annual grant from the Maine Community Foundation, from one of the foundations within that group, for books for the library. And so they're giving us $1,200 a year. That is huge for us. And if you figure the cost of a book is about $30, it doesn't go very far, but it's better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. And our fundraising is continuing. We will again this year have our annual plant and book sale, very successful every year. We depend on the Friends of the Library to join up as members and make donations to us, and they've been very generous with us each year. That's anywhere from $25 to $500. People just give what they would like to give. And we get lots of small checks and some nice big fat ones. So. And we are doing ongoing grant writing to fund and expand our programs. And Chris has been very instrumental in leading that forward, like renewing our fund with Bangor Savings Bank. And she can tell you about some other grants that have gone in. The big expense we're having this year is the paving in front of the library, which you may recall we hoped would happen last year, didn't. It was a matter of weather and time, not stunts. And we are ready to go with that. We have put $5,000 into the budget for that paving, and we're really, really hoping we can come in at around $5,000 for the library share. What we want to pave is the handicap parking space, just the one parking space, and the walkways that go in front of the library and lead up to our handicapped accessible ramp. And that will be in conjunction with the town paving from Breezemere Park on up, so that we are continuously handicapped accessible. We're excited about that, and we're hoping that we can meet that cost. I'm not going to go into all of the budget items unless you have questions about them specifically. But I think it's important to remember that hard as we work at the library, our funding is still variable. It's hugely variable. And it's based on what people decide to give us, including the town of Lincolnville and tax money. And so we can never actually count on specific money except for some special gifts we have been given that Jim will tell you a little bit about, that have been given to us, and we've parceled out over years so that we can make them last as long as possible. But you know, we have to continue to fundraise, and we're happy to do so, and we get a lot of joy from the response of the community to our fundraising. Jim, Chris?
A couple of things to add. In our letter to the select board and the budget committee, we included a return on investment chart about what the town gets back from all of the services that the library provides. And that's really what the library is. It's a service organization to help the town and for people to come through the door and take advantage of what we offer. If it is sitting in their car outside the door in the dark when we're closed, using the Wi-Fi that's available to everybody, it's coming in and having your kids playing toys while they look for books. It's all kinds of people who are coming in. We're seeing a lot of the new people in town coming into the library. But the library costs a lot. So the State of Maine Library produces a value for the services that any library in the state provides. And that would include the fact that we provide free botanical garden tickets to anybody who wants to come in and get those. Children's programs, they put a dollar value on that, how many children who come and attend that. Every time we get a reference question, and we get a lot of them, asking about who they should call about something, or what about the AARP tax. We've been getting a lot of those calls. They put a dollar value on that, and when did I have this on? It's not on here, but it was like, how much was that? $55,000?
55,088.
Yes.
It is in there.
And so that's the amount of money that the library is providing, and a lot of those back into the town. And I think if we divide that by the population, that's a pretty good return on the money that the town gives the library to help provide all these services. So we'd like to have 3,000 because we have a lot of books we'd like to buy and things we'd like to do, and asking.
And for the purpose of the budget in 2023, it was just under 25,000 for the year. And in 2024, it's 33,750. Now that counts the 5,000 for the paving. But still, without that, the budget due to expenses, which very few we can let go. I mean, we don't have to buy any books, except for the grant that gives us $1,250 to buy books. Or someone gives a donation that says, we want you to buy books. We have to buy books with that. We honor that. So that's gone up 4,000, just increasing costs. But I want to give everybody an idea of what we received, and we call revenue, but it's donations. So donations we received $10,000. That's from friends. It was about 8,500. And donations for books we sell. It's really not a donation, but for books we sell, it's about 1,500. So it comes out to 10,000. grants, we call grants, we have one person who is, and she's just an amazing person. In the last 3 years, she's given us about $75,000.
More than 3 years.
Yeah, well, the 3 years that I know, that I've kept track of, but and what we've done is, the last 2 years, in 2021, 22, when we got it, we split up for $10,000 a year to cover just our operating budget. Nothing really new, just the operating budget. This year, she gave us $25,000, and that she specified the endowment.
So she can't use it.
So we can't use it for this year. And we might go back and ask if we can use it for next year. But, so the bottom line is for 2024, we think we can cover the budget without any cost increases, but for 2025, we're gonna lose 10,000 of our budget because of that. We also got another, when we're hoping for more, we got $2,350 in grants. So we are going out, as Kathleen said, Chris is going out, and we're writing grants, trying to get more money, bring money in. The town is 1,500, and I think it was 2021, we were getting 3,000 from the town, if I remember right.
Yes.
And that, we got cut. And fundraising, which we restarted this year, was the first year we've done it since COVID. We had a plant sale, and that generated about $4,500, which is great. Interestingly, I heard before, I was listening, I heard before, quite a bit of this money is not from Lincoln.
Right. People just support libraries.
A lot of our fundraising are from people who live in other states. Just remember the library. So I think that's interesting. That's what we received last year in donations and fundraising, and grants, etc.
Anyone have specific questions for the library? Not to cut them off, but.
I know you have a schedule to keep. We're cognizant
We
of
did,
that.
we did.
Oh, but did
No,
we just
we
blow
don't.
it?
We're all right. I'll talk quick.
Any questions from anyone?
Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Appreciate being able to come in and tell you what we're doing. Toot our horn a little bit.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that.
No?
Thank you. Thank you. Good night. Good night.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you. Come join us on the hot seat. All right. So we're going back to, let's see.
Page 20.
We're still on page 20 with municipal support. McGonagall Watershed Association. Tim is the executive director. Correct?
Correct.
Relatively new to that position. I mean.
Almost a year.
Almost a year. So you didn't get to, did you get to come last year?
I did not, no.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
welcome then.
Thank you.
This is a meeting of the Select Board and the Budget Committee, and Tim is going to explain to you what the McGonagall Watershed Association does, and what their request for a donation is, and what they'll do with that money. And Tim, since we're on schedule, you have to do this in -5 minutes.
You can just vote and approve right now, and we can just go home.
Probably not.
Well, thank you. My name is Tim Trumbauer. As mentioned, I'm the Executive Director of Watershed Patrol at the McGonagall Watershed Association. And our mission is to protect, preserve, and promote the resilience of the McGonagall Watershed for the benefit and enjoyment of all, and to protect the natural resources. So we are requesting $4,500 this year, which is an increase over last year, as the library folks just mentioned. I was listening in. Expenses are going up, so we're certainly, as a small organization, are feeling that as well. Everything from boat gas to boat insurance to everything is more expensive, and we're also increasing our programming. So I think it's kind of appropriate, and we're hopeful that you'll see the value in funding us a little bit more this year. So some of the things we do here in Lincolnville, obviously we're a watershed association, and it really centers around the water and the watershed. We set out and manage all of the navigational aids in Norton Pond and McGonagall Lake. We employ the courtesy boat inspectors that inspect boats at the launch for invasive plants to help protect the lake and pond. We run courtesy boat safety patrols, primarily on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and holidays throughout the summer. And so we're out here patrolling the waterways, making sure people are operating safely, occasionally chasing off jet skis, which are not permitted, as I'm sure you know, here in our watershed. And generally just making sure that everyone's out having a good time, enjoying the resources, but doing so in a safe manner. We also do water quality monitoring. We have 3 primary stations where we monitor water quality in the watershed, 2 of which are in Lincolnville. One is down in Trout Hole and one is here in Norton Pond. And we monitor in the summer just to identify potential issues and track the long-term health of the water quality. And as part of that, we include bacteria monitoring, which is a evaluation of how safe the water is to swim in terms of public health risk. So we collect those samples. It's a volunteer program, but we pay for the sampling, and we do that throughout the summer months. And we collect here at the beach, and then also up in the river at the input, where it comes in under the culvert, and then several other locations throughout the watershed. And then lastly, we do incur sometimes special expenses. This past year, we had an expense of actually coordinating with the Lakes and Ponds Committee about this, $400 expense for disposal of an abandoned styrofoam float, which was not marked. We couldn't determine the ownership of it. It was essentially litter in the lake. It was a safety hazard and also an environmental hazard. So we did dispose of that. We had to pay $400 out of our own pocket to the disposal company and to the landfill to get rid of that. So we want to be able to continue to do those types of things, but we also really have a tight budget. So everything's kind of accounted for. So when we incur those extra expenses, it's nice to make sure that we have those covered. So I'm happy to answer any questions. That's just kind of the highlights of what we do. We do a lot more programs. We're funded almost exclusively by member donations from our neighbors and from community members, from small donations. We are a membership organization, and then we also get some support from grants and from the local municipalities, which is absolutely essential to our operation. So I really thank you for your consideration, and thank you for any help you guys can provide us, because it really does make a difference for us.
I'm just curious, what do our neighbor communities contribute to the Mechanical watershed on?
Yeah. So we, to my knowledge, we do not get anything from the town of Hope. We have not requested anything from the town of Hope. They have a very kind of small water frontage. There are no navigational aids within their boundaries. The town of Camden has traditionally funded us. I believe it's at $6,500 a year. That is for just general operational services, including the navigational aids and watershed patrol. It's not really a contract, it's a donation, and then we do these things as part of our mission. We did get extra funding this year for them specifically to do water quality monitoring in certain areas of the McGonagall River. So that was kind of an added thing above and beyond how they traditionally fund us, but they typically give us about $6,500 a year.
Thank you.
The Camden Police Department, your law enforcement presence on Mechanical Lake?
So that's an important distinction. We have no enforcement authority, right? We're a nonprofit organization. We operate from a courtesy perspective. I cannot write any tickets. No one within our organization can write any tickets or do any of that. So it's just outreach, education, and having a presence out in the watershed. The town of Camden does have a harbor master, which is the chief of police, which is Randy, and they do occasional patrols out on the lake, but not nearly as frequently as we do. And then also, of course, the warden service, the main warden service, has a presence on the lake, and I actually saw them out there quite a few times, both in Lincolnville throughout the whole watershed. They actually typically put in here. I think it's closer to to where their barracks are. Yeah. So those are the two official enforcement authorities on the lake and the pond.
Yeah.
What is the overall budget of the association?
Our overall budget approved by the board for this year is $107,000. So when I say that this is a significant amount of funding and it really makes a difference, it really does. So, is there a question over here?
Same one as Steve just asked. Exactly the same.
Any other questions for Tim? Otherwise, he gets a gold star for telling us their mission and explaining everything and getting us kind of close back to schedule. Anyone? Thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
And I'm going to really work hard to get you back on schedule because the next item is the Lincolnville Improvement Association. which the summary is on page 20, but their detail is on page 22. Their president is unable to attend because he's out of town. So I would encourage you to read the explanation, and I won't try to explain it to you more than what they've written at your leisure after tonight or when you go home. So the LIA is the Lincolnville Improvement Association, if you all didn't know what that was.
They might have an increased budget because the beach is partially destroyed. or covered elsewhere.
That's gonna be ours,
Yeah.
collectively ours, yes, not the Improvement Association. They've requested the same amount of money for this past year. With that very brief explanation, I'm gonna move on because there's nobody here to answer questions or explain that. So general assistance is Kayla's specialty amongst other things. So I'll let her talk about general assistance, which is on page 20 and detailed on page 22.
So I have asked for a little bit of an increase for the general assistance this year. What we have been asked this year at least, and I think the previous year as well, in regards to housing has gone up significantly. The Black Horse Inn is now a temporary housing location. So there's been a lot of people that have been moving into there or are currently living there that come to us for assistance. A room for a month there is around $1,600. So if I have a couple people that request assistance, the state maximums, depending on how many people are living in the room, is around $1,100 to $1,200. The first month they want me to pay the full $1,600, and then the following months, if they continue to be granted assistance, I can stick to the state maximums. So just need a little bit more flexibility there. General assistance is one of the lines where we can overrun it without town meeting. And I do get a reimbursement of about 70% from the state. That can take some time depending on when we request it. And
So general assistance is a state program. Some places commonly refer to it as welfare. And what happens is it's a state program that the towns get to administer and fund. And then provided we follow the rules, as Kayla said, we get a portion of that reimbursed to us. They do occasionally do an audit of the books or what we do, because they want to know whether or not we're following their rules. And if we don't, we pay out of our own money and they don't reimburse us for it. Kayla's very good at following the rules.
their rules are a bit of a moving target, but
Nicely done. So we've already spent 66%. You see us coming in?
yeah, that is, I did not take out the reimbursement out of that. So that is what I've spent
Okay.
before reimbursement.
Yeah.
What's the number that we're helping this year compared to last year? It's a lot more, or is it remain consistent?
Between this year and last year has remained about consistent since the COVID funds have kind of ended. The Homeless Coalition in Rockport is very pushy. And they do a lot of the calling and trying to do a lot of the pushing for the clients. And I found in multiple cases, if I request more, the clients aren't providing the information. So they're hoping I'll just do a quick approval. But there's a lot of things I need to make sure I am following the state guidelines, and I don't get a lot of that follow-up, so.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
At the risk of this being a dumb question, but the heat, is that a separate program than that LIHEAP program?
Yes.
Okay.
So the general assistance has funds, there's like David said, an application process the state requires. And that would be, in some cases, it's an emergency. So I ran out of oil. I don't have any money to pay for it because I've been out of work for the past couple of weeks, and I'm kind of in that rough situation. That's what it's supposed to be for, is those situations where you're laid off, you didn't quite expect it to happen. So you normally wouldn't qualify for LIHEAP, but this situation's kind of put you in that place. Unfortunately, LIHEAP has also had a huge backlog. So people that have applied or that called to apply in November can't get it until March. And they're supposed to have an emergency number, but they have 3 employees and people aren't getting calls back. So thankfully, with heating prices down a little bit this year, I haven't gotten as many heating requests this year as I did last year, and it hasn't been as cold, so.
So Ted, I think I ask you this every year, do you think this is enough?
I'm thinking that.
I do, because you gotta, also what I've spent last year, I didn't take out the reimbursement because I hadn't, or what I've also spent this year, I didn't take out the reimbursement because I haven't gotten it yet. And I can overrun it if I need
Is
to.
that a big hassle for you to overrun it, I guess?
We haven't had to yet, but no.
You just keep running the books, and there's,
I'm just surprised that it isn't up around $10,000-12,000, really. Obviously, thank you very much for running it close and keeping an eye on it and doing what we need to do, and for helping the people that really need to help. But I'm just surprised, much like you, is that enough, you know?
well, if any of us could really look deep into our crystal ball and predict what it'll be, you know, if the economy takes a turn really south sometime this year and we end up with next winter season, it may not. But, you know, we can estimate based on what we know and do the best we can. And like you said, fortunately, if it has to, it is something that the state law does allow us to overrun. And if if a person meets the qualifications, they're going to get the aid.
I find a lot of the requirements are that they have to look for work. Like if they're currently unemployed, they're not applying for disability, then they do have to look for work, and I hold them to that. I'll call, make sure they got the application, make sure that it was a decent effort, not just, so I hold people accountable too, which I think they should be.
So Lincolnville's getting a reputation for all those towns that shop around?
Yeah, don't go there.
We will help you if you help yourself.
Exactly, that's my philosophy.
Any other questions regarding general assistance?
Look at that, I got us right on track.
Nice job.
Due to my leadership. So the remainder of municipal support comes to me to explain. We have monies in the budget for moderator. We pay for, or we offer to pay moderators at our town meeting for their services. I don't know if I can see. Okay, so, and that includes the annual town meeting, the budget meeting for the school, and if we have any special town meetings. Ballot clerks, we're running, well, 3 elections this year, 2 of which are in the current budget year, and 1 will be in the next fiscal year. A fair amount of our ballot clerks volunteered their services, but if they choose not to, we pay them minimum wage for the time that they're helping out elections, and hence the request. And the last one under municipal support we hadn't talked about yet is registrar of voters. That's primarily one of the ladies here in the office does the duties of the registrar within her current pay, but we have some supplies and equipment purchases and training so that she can keep up with the rules, because they keep changing. If you don't believe it, ask her. So I'm happy to answer questions about municipal support, any or all of those items, or keep turning pages. All right. Oh, we're frozen. How nice. Who knows what's going on with that thing? Keep going. Provider agencies, which are on page 23. The Budget Committee has started their deliberations on provider agencies. The Select Board doesn't act on provider agencies requests until after the Budget Committee has made their recommendations. That's because that's how it's set forth in the town charter. So probably not going to spend a whole lot of time chit-chatting about that, since you folks already have started that and not completed it. The capital improvement program, which is on page 24, is just that, improving our programs in major ways. And I'll run down these slowly. Fire truck fund, the town has 4 primary firefighting vehicles, and we also have a parade truck that's 1950 something. The fire trucks, we keep those on average 30 years before they're replaced. So we're replacing a truck every 7.5 years on average. Fire trucks are not inexpensive. We're very fortunate in Lincolnville that there is the Lincolnville Community Foundation, which is a separate entity from the town that makes donations to the town for firefighting purposes, and also quite frequently donates to our truck fund, so that when we purchased a truck in the past, about half of that has been paid with donated funds. We have included a $5,000 increase in the request over what was budgeted last year, just because fire trucks are not inexpensive. Moving on from fire trucks, we have harbor improvement funds budgeted this year at $50,000. We had quite an extensive storm on January 10th and again on the 13th, but the 10th in particular made us aware, not more aware, but aware of some challenges with our pier. Mainly when it was constructed about 30 years ago, the north side, the deck is strapped down and the south side is not. And the deck was moving with the wave action, and I thought I was going to watch the deck be ripped off the piling and be on the beach, but fortunately it didn't. We had a structural engineer come down the next day to examine it, to tell us whether or not we should let people back on it. And fortunately, it didn't move from where it had started, or it moved, but it went back to where it had started. And we had a recommendation that we consider strapping down the south side of the pier deck as well. So we have monies in the pier deck, in the harbor improvements for that work, as well as the fender piles, which are the piles on the outside of the structure that a boat rests up against so it doesn't get underneath the deck. Those have deteriorated over 30 years, and we're looking to replace a number of those in the coming budget year.
Questions now, or?
Yeah, sure, fire away.
So strapping down, what is that? Strapping it to what?
The pilings, it's, the pier is supported by wooden pilings driven into the ocean bottom. It involves a galvanized steel strap, and I'm making this width up. The ones we have are probably 3 or 4 inches wide. They bolt through the piling, go up over the pile cap, which is the heavy timber member that runs from top of pile to top of pile to top of pile. And then on top of if you can imagine that cap, pile cap that goes from pile to pile, is I believe it's a 12 by 12 timber. On top of that run the stringers, just like when you're building a house, instead of floor joists, it's a stringer that's, I believe that's a 4 by 12 or 4 by 8 anyways, that runs perpendicular to the shore. And then the decking on top of that runs the opposite direction, parallel to the shore roughly, and that is screwed down to the stringers, and the stringers are attached to the cap. So the strapping will come up and from the pile to the cap and secure the cap down to the pile. There was some discussion and debate about whether or not that was a good idea, or with it not being strapped down allows some relief of the pressure. The real relief is if the pressure removes the deck, it's something we can put back on. If the pressure removes the cap and the other timbers, we're done. So that's where we are. I know something near and dear to you, John, has been resilience. We looked at, we had a study done a couple of years ago now, it was just before the pandemic, I think, which identified the fact that the pier is, although it's high, it's not necessarily high enough. When something different would be done, we don't know. The structural engineer, when he came to inspect, said, just to give you relative terms, the deck is at elevation 15 now. If they were to build it now, the absolute lowest they would go would be elevation 17, and they probably would look to do something higher. So we've, what the usefulness of that whole structure is, you know, it's wood, so it has a useful life, and probably not looking to do something higher, taller until we need to do a major rebuild of the whole thing.
Yeah, well, and just further clarification, so there is existing strapping on what was thought to be the highest weather impact side, and as those two rapid fire storms proved out, that side remained secure while the other side enjoyed a free-flowing experience with the wave pattern. So yeah, so this would be additional strapping, and as David said, could potentially make the decking somewhat sacrificial, but that's much easier, much lower hanging fruit to repair. So.
Anybody have other questions about harbor improvements? Our road improvement request has remained the same. We have a little over 8 miles of gravel road and 26 miles of paved road. This is a program where we're looking to improve our road network. The most recent project we did is up on Townhouse Road, where we put a giant box culvert in to replace a culvert that didn't take the flow. And we were fortunate to obtain a grant for that, a portion of that work. And that project is now big check marking behind us. Next projects, besides the Calderwood Lane that we'll talk about here in a couple weeks probably, that we hope to do this summer, there's a drainage structure on the Youngtown Road over Hardy Brook that we believe was installed in the 1930s with the Conservation Corps, and its time is rapidly approaching.
They did a good job.
They did. Let's hope that what we're doing now goes as long. So that's road improvements. Our solar array equipment, this is new request. We have our solar array that's at the center fire station. We purchased that a couple of years ago, and it has equipment, and Kathleen mentioned for their one at the library, which is not town-owned, things do go break on those. We're anticipating at some point the possibility of needing a new inverter. We have 4 and other things, and rather than be caught not being able to generate electricity, we want to have some money set aside so that should one fail, we can get it replaced. So this is a start. One of the other things that has come into play with the solar array, which is nice that I don't think we anticipated, is we've been able to sell our, what do they call those RECs? What's the acronym for that, John?
Renewable energy
Credit, renewable energy credits. We got nearly, somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 in the past year. Revision Energy, who helps us with our facility, manages those renewable energy credits for us and sells those to probably some polluter somewhere. But we recoup the money from that and it comes back to us. So we've got a little bit to help offset some of these other costs that we'll be looking at, as well as cheaper electricity.
The solar, just for the library, I was involved early on DIY troubleshooting, and until Revision came and fixed it, but they were saying it could be a mouse chewing on a wire, or
Yeah.
it was an arc fault, so there was like a jumping across from one wire, something came loose or something, and they might have had to take all the panels off the roof to find it. So I don't know whatever happened, but things like that happen.
Things like that happen. Fortunately, ours isn't on the roof, but I probably rest assured that that field has mice in it. So let's hope we don't get that situation. Revaluation, as I mentioned on Tuesday night, the town has contracted for a townwide property revaluation. That request is substantially lower than past years because we have a contract for $215,000 and we have $200,000 in the bank that we raised previously. So now we're looking for 15, so we'll be done. And town office landscape improvements, the public facilities director, who's not here tonight, would like to do some improvements to the landscaping out front, basically mowing and seeding in the giant island we have out front.
Just filling in that swale.
Yeah, and making it so it actually grows grass instead of nothing. But
You'll have to mow it if it grows back.
what's that?
You'll have to mow it.
Yes, yes, somebody will.
Does that process include analyzing and removing trees that are suspect out there?
Does not.
Should we consider that?
Well, we asked a couple of years ago our tree steward to come examine the trees, and we could do that again if we want to.
I think it would be good if we did it.
Probably prior to the 70-mile-an-hour wind.
Yeah.
Still there.
Dave, in the theme of storm repairs, and the damage that happened to Penobscot Park, thinking about the amount of destabilized shoreline we've got going on.
Yeah. So, in case you are all unaware, December 18th, we had quite a storm. And then again, on January 10th and January 13th, we had even more storm events. The 18th of December was declared a disaster by the feds. And we're in hopes that we'll be able to recoup some of our costs that we expended trying to recover from that storm. The 10th and the 13th of January are still somewhere in limbo land, working their way up and down the chain. We've experienced a number of our town facilities incurred damage. Penobscot Park, the access to the shore is now part of the shore, and a big hole. We had some tree damage there. The shoreline had experienced some fairly substantial erosion action. At Lincolnville Beach in the town parking lot, the seawall took a beating, and the material behind the seawall is now, some of it, part of the beach. Some of our sidewalk was severely damaged in that storm, or those storms. We are diligently working on obtaining estimates or quotes to do repairs. We've filed paperwork with the Maine Emergency Management Agency, and they in turn file that with the feds to try to get that disaster declarations. I would anticipate at the next select board meeting that they're going to get an update of all the damages that occurred and the cost to repair. and a request from the town administrator that they consider holding a special town meeting to appropriate funds for the repairs for this. Basically, we'll be taking it out of our savings, paying for the repairs on the hopes that the feds and the state will reimburse us at 90 or 95%, but that takes several years at times and a fair amount of paperwork. There are, well, certainly at Penobscot Park and maybe to a lesser extent the beach, there are some, well, not to a lesser extent the beach, there are some unsafe areas currently that we have tried to cordon off. So just so you know, it's coming.
Okay, I didn't know if we were gonna break Penobscot, some of that into the next fiscal year.
It probably will be all, I would anticipate that we're going to give you one big lump with a bunch of parts to it, and look to get that funded sooner rather than later. For example, at Lincolnville Beach or Penobscot Park. Well, Penobscot Park is closed for the winter. We traditionally open that on the Friday, I believe the Friday before Memorial Day. We either need to do the repairs between now and Friday before Memorial Day, or cordon off some of the area so that somebody doesn't say, well, this is where the stairs used to be, and go tumbling down the hole. Lincolnville Beach, same thing, you know, before you know it, people are gonna wanna be at the beach, and time is rapidly approaching, so we'll need, we can't contract to fix things without money.
So I guess we don't have insurance, the town doesn't have insurance.
We have insurance for some things, but some things aren't covered. Some things aren't covered with flood, some things, you know, some things you can't insure. Well, I shouldn't say you can't insure. You know, you can insure anything you want. Go call Lloyd's of London or something, but some things aren't covered by our current insurance policy. And FEMA certainly makes you, they've already asked for it, and we've provided it. They make you use your insurance first, which only makes sense. If you're insured, they're not going to cover it. And then for things that aren't covered by insurance, then they evaluate the cost and the need. Try to get us back to, and they don't, the current program isn't to make you better or maybe more resilient, it's to put you back the way you were.
Someday that will change.
Or they'll stop they'll stop doing it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Can't keep fighting it forever.
Right. Any questions on capital improvement? Brent did that pretty quickly. And we list a bunch of other items, but those were things that were funded in years prior, because they haven't dropped off yet. All right, seeing no questions on capital improvement, let's turn to debt service, page 25. Congratulations to the town of Lincolnville for paying off its 2008 road bond, so we no longer have debt service for that. So you see a zero request for the principal and a zero request for interest. We will be, assuming town meeting approves the money, we'll be making the third of 10 payments. Third? Yeah, third of 10 payments to the Lincolnville Sewer District. About 5 years ago, 2018, it's right in here, town meeting approved assisting the Lincolnville Sewer District with monies to help pay their debt service. A total of $190,000 was agreed to, with 10 equal payments of $19,000, and we've made 2 of those payments, so this will be the third. That was pretty painless, that page, just paying. And then you have the budget totals, which includes the revenues and offsets. The gross municipal budget as proposed, although Rosie just got $4,000 off this thing, said $3,109,984, up 5.6% from the previous year. The middle quarter, the next part of the page is our revenue and budget offsets. These are revenues that we receive that are that we seek voters to appropriate to reduce the property tax burden. Boat excise, if you register your boat, you pay an excise tax, and we appropriate some of that funds to reduce taxes. Vehicle excise, we've upped the boat excise, we've left alone at $5,000. Vehicle excise, we've upped to $600,000, where people seem to be buying cars and paying excise tax, and we appreciate that. That's all local money. Local road assistance comes to us from the state of Maine. That's going to be the same amount this year as it was last. Our fund balance, we budgeted the same as last year. Municipal revenue sharing comes to us from the state of Maine. This has often been something that's been a bit in flux at this time, but this year the state budget is set, so they can tell us what the estimated revenue sharing will be, and we've had some revenue sharing money left over from previous years, so it's all included in there this year. And harbor fees and donations, we get some donations for running the harbor, and we charge fees to people for moorings and to use the hoist there, and if you take a truck on there, we charge big truck fees and $10,000. Total estimate for revenues is $1,804,026, which is down a little bit from previous years. What was approved last year, you will note that we no longer have any American Rescue Plan Act money. We've expended all or committed all of that money, so that leaves a net to be raised, which raised means raised through property taxes of $1,305,958, subject to change based on select board recommendation, budget committee recommendations, and town meeting approval. And with that, unless you have more questions, I have concluded talking.
And 20 minutes ahead. I don't know if I've ever experienced this.
Oh my God. You run an efficient meeting.
That's what happens when you have 3 meetings in 1 week.
Any other questions? No, not that any forthcoming questions won't be answered.
So I did say I was done talking, and then I feel like compelled to talk some more. Just to let everybody know, because there were some people here tonight that weren't here the other night. From now, you've now heard all of the municipal budget. The budget committee, this makes up 13% of your property tax bill, roughly. The county budget is set, which makes up roughly another 12 or 13% of your property tax bill. The remainder is your education expenditures. You all budget committee members have been invited to attend the school committee's workshop on the K-8 school, or pre-K to 8 school budget now. Keep saying K to 8, which is Tuesday, March 5th. Which is also election day, presidential primary, don't forget to vote. And that will be in the school in the cafeteria. They offer, I believe, a light dinner or some sort of food beverage. Please go and attend. And the 5-town CSD, which is the high school, is in the process of reviewing their budget, and they will have budgetary, you all as budget committee don't have any responsibilities towards that. They don't have a budget committee, they just have their school committee. But they certainly have a public process that anybody's invited to attend their meetings. And so what will happen now with this portion, now that the select board has heard it all, we're going to make some minor amendments to this in terms of typos and other things that have been identified. The select board will be deliberating this over the next month or so. And then they'll make their recommendations. We'll fill in the select board recommendation column and get it back to the budget committee in April for you to, March, in March, for you to do whatever process you wish to come up with your recommendations, and we'll be available to assist and provide information as need be. So you'll do yours in March. School budget gets finalized in April. Your recommendations on both the warrant for the town meeting and the school budget meeting done roughly the end of April-ish. The school budget meeting will be held at some point in May, and town meeting to do the municipal budget and validate the school budget will be June 11th and June 13th. Now I think I'm done.
So much fun between now and then.
And our next meeting is March 5th, or is there?
No, our next meeting is next Thursday. We are meeting with the Waldo County Woodshed and hopefully Waldo Community Action Partners.
Okay, I'm going next Thursday.
So that's the 22nd.
Anything else? If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you very